Kate at Benu was kind enough to send me the Tiger's Eye Talisman fountain pen, and today we're going to take a closer look at this beauty.
The video you are about to see is an older one. I ended up taking it down and I'm reposting it now. There was a bit of a funny mix-up when it came to the Benu pen with respect to the nib size I thought I had in my possession versus what I wanted. Anyhow, between Benu and I, it's a long story. We got it all sorted out and the fault is entirely mine. I thank Benu for being so accommodating when I realized my error in terms of which nib size I had thought I had got versus the one I wanted. Many months later, they sent me a replacement nib, and the benefit to you, the audience in this video, is that I actually have this pen in 3 different nib sizes, the fine, the medium, and the broad. To be clear, it's one pen, and I've got replacement nib units for each. So, when it comes to the writing sample that I'm going to do a little bit later on in the video, I'll be able to show you the full spectrum of the Schmidt nib in the fine, the medium, and the broad, and how this pen writes. Without spoiling too much, I love this pen. It's in my fountain pen daily drivers. Let's get back to the original content.
I wasn't sure about Benu when I first saw some of their fountain pen designs. They're known for their colorful, almost slap-in-your-face, outrageous designs, and that's not something I naturally gravitate towards as my own personal aesthetic. However, when I was looking at the Goulet website a few months ago, they had this beautiful Earl Grey edition, Earl Grey tea, and that's what really caught my attention, was the fact that the folks over at Benu put Earl Grey tea leaves into the body of the pen. I was very intrigued. A little bit about Benu. They're relatively recent in the fountain pen market. They started up in 2016, and the 2 founders, Kate and Alex, started up Benu, and I'm just going to read this verbatim from their website. Started up Benu to make writing instruments and desk accessories for those who prefer bold, bright colors and new designs that are playful, stylish, and fun. And I would say that there's a lot of incredible designs on their website. Some of them I'm very much drawn to. Other ones I would have to experiment with. But either way, I think they're doing something that's very unique within the fountain pen world, particularly with this design aesthetic that they're so naturally drawn to, and incorporating materials such as the Tiger's Eye quartz into the body of the pen. The other thing, I was intrigued about their name, and they have this right on their website. So again, I'm going to read this verbatim. Well, not verbatim, but I did a little bit of research to corroborate. And Benu, the name, is a deity and a bird in Egyptian mythology associated with the sun, creation, and rebirth. There are different lines in the catalog, and the talisman is what I was drawn to, but I do encourage you to check out some of their other lines. I think there's quite a wide variety. They don't just do fountain pens, but since I love fountain pens, that's what I was drawn to. Benu isn't readily available here in Canada in terms of picking one up at my local stationery shops. They are available through some retailers online. There's a couple of shops out in Vancouver that do carry Benu pens. I reached out to Kate, as I mentioned, directly at Benu. She ended up shipping it over to me. Goulet Pens down in the US obviously carries a lot of Benu products, and they even have special editions like the Earl Grey that I mentioned. And I'll post a brochure with some of the details and a little bit more history and background about Benu in the description below, so feel free to check that out. Kate very kindly sent me the Tiger's Eye Talisman pen. The Tiger's Eye quartz or stone is typically attributed to strength and protection in terms of magical properties. If you're into that kind of stuff, what I think is quite incredible with what Benu did here is according to the description, incorporated the Tiger's Eye quartz into the pen. Of course, they also put a disclaimer right into their product description there that they can't guarantee that you'll get any magical attributes as described in terms of properties of Tiger's Eye quartz. But it is distinct and quite incredible to take a look at. So let's take a closer look at this pen, and I'll just walk you through what we have here. Normally I'd do an unboxing, but as you can see, I've already taken the pen out. It's really beautiful packaging here. And inside the box, this pen comes with pen sleeve to hold the pen in cartridge, and then a description on the specific fountain pen. So here is the Tiger's Eye. And as I said, magical attributes, strength and protection. And there's quite a lot of dialogue in this, which I think is really cool that they even include this. But here's the Tiger's Eye stone. That's typical. And here's the pen. Oh, yeah, and then there's a lifetime warranty pamphlet in here as well. It's quite nice packaging, succinct, to the point, like that they go through the trouble of including some specific descriptions and the intent behind the design here, which I think is really cool. I have to say this has become my favorite pen just because of the gorgeous aesthetic. If I were to compare this to some other pens in terms of size, here's the Pilot Vanishing Point. Here is a Esterbrook, a little bit smaller than the Esterbrook here, but fairly decent size. Here's a Pilot Metro for comparison, so typical smaller size, and a TWSBI Eco. So a little bit shorter than your typical pen, I guess. It's almost, it's comparable to the Pilot Metro, but shorter than the Vanishing Point, shorter than the Esterbrook, and definitely shorter than the Eco. Weight-wise, I haven't measured the weight of the pen, but it's fairly lightweight compared to the Esterbrook, compared to the Vanishing Point for sure, which is all metal. About the same weight as the... No, I would say the Pilot Metro is heavier and fairly comparable size to TWSBI Eco. As you can tell, the body is just absolutely gorgeous, and this detailing of the golden flecks, sparkles, I think is incredible. It's a nice a nice orange, like a burnt orange at the top of the lid here, which also has this beautiful detailing. And each pen is unique. This is not a specific design in the sense that if you also pick up a Tiger's Eye, it'll have different marbling, different orientation of the gold and the glitter. Really, really beautiful to look at. The clip is a steel clip, nothing fancy. Has a little bit of spring, but quite robust. The bottom is a flat edge here, flat bottom. It's got actually a little bit of a divot and a curve inside of that. And then this is a rounded lid on the top. Unscrewing the, and then the Beimu logo, right on the lid here. So unscrewing the pen. Tapered grip section, threaded here on the back, but it doesn't interfere with the grip. Well, it could, I guess, depending on how you hold your pen, but I think it's fairly straightforward. Threaded, a little bit of a nub, I guess, hard to see in here, where the cap resides on the body. It's a resin body, so it's quite lightweight. And as I mentioned, they claim that they've put tiger quartz into the body itself. It's got beautiful glitter or flecking inside of it, which I think is really nice. The nib is a Schmidt nib, number 6 on this guy. This one's in a medium. Standard nib. And the feed is all plastic. It writes incredibly well, which I was very pleasantly surprised about. The pen is worth $162 or 180 Canadian dollars. And we can take a writing sample. Look here.
As I mentioned at the start of the video, I had the unfortunate but fortunate experience of getting all 3 nib sizes in this pen. And to be clear, that had nothing to do with Beimu. That was all me and not being able to read the nib size on my nib. The opportunity that presents itself now is the fact that you will benefit from seeing the 3 different nib size writing styles, from the fine, the medium, and the broad, just so that you can have a sense of what you might gravitate to if you were to pick up this pen. We'll start with the fine. I've currently got it inked up with the Iroshizuku Yu Iyake, which is an orange. And it's coming out as a little bit of a burnt orange, a little bit darker orange. So the fine is definitely a fine. I gravitate towards medium nibs generally for my long form writing, for my journaling for more than 5 minutes, I would say. The fine nib is fantastic. It's smooth. It has a little bit of feedback as expected from being a steel nib. It's a Schmidt nib again, number 6. This is the fine and the Benu. So we'll go ahead and swap it over to the medium nib. So you can get replacement nibs from Benu directly or from Goldspot pens. And I think there's one more place in Canada that has replacement nibs. Now, when I ordered from Goldspot pens, what I ended up getting was just the Schmidt nib here. And when Benu sent me their replacement nib, they gave me the entire nib unit and the grip section here as well. And the way you can tell which nib you've got, of course, it's right in the front there, and it might not be easy enough to see on the camera, but it's right beneath the breather hole which nib you've got. So this was the fine, and we're going to swap over to the medium now. And swapping it over is quite simple. In this case, what I'm going to do is just take out the cartridge converter and put on the medium here. So writing with the medium, significantly wetter right off the bat, which I personally like from the longer form journaling. Now, being a steel nib, it is stiff, but the medium is considerably smoother than the fine. I prefer smoother nibs personally, and I really like the feel of the medium here. So a little bit more shading, a lot more ink flow. And again, this is in the Yu Iyake Iroshizuku ink. Let's swap over to the broad. What we're going to do is take out the cartridge converter, and you're just going to gently hold the nib unit and then the grip section, and you're just going to twist. It's that simple. So the nib unit comes out. Grab our broad here. And you're just going to gently twist it back on. Snug is good. Never over tighten these things in my experience. You might end up damaging some of the fins on your nib unit here. So just a little nice snug fit. So lots more ink flow. It's very wet. Very, very smooth nib. It's butter. It's very little to no feedback. Very, very satisfying. So out of the three, I definitely prefer the medium. It has good ink flow. It is a bit wetter than some of my other medium nibs. So out of the three, I definitely prefer the medium. I prefer a nice ink flow. It is wet, which I really like. It gives you good characteristics. At least it gives me good characteristics in my writing in terms of the shading. Some sheen inks into the tiger's eye as well, and really good sheening that shows through. The fine is nice, don't get me wrong. However, I just prefer a little bit more ink flow. The broad is very, very wet. Writes like a broad is beautiful in my opinion in terms of exploring ink characteristics. There's a lot more shading that shows up between the medium and the broad for sure. You get different characteristics in terms of shade and sheen if you're playing around with those inks. I would be okay putting even a shimmer into the Beimu pen here in the broad, because it just is so wet, and I would have very few reservations about it clogging up and having to, or deeper clean. And I hope that's helpful in terms of if you're considering this pen, which nib size you might want to gravitate towards.